The Legend of Zelda is one of the biggest franchises Nintendo owns, but it has to have one of the most complicated timelines of all time. So before Tears of the Kingdom comes out, I'll make a timeline video because, why the hell not? To be clear, this video is mostly talking about the important plot points that are integral to the lore and overall timeline. I will not be including any of the manga, unexplained mysteries, or minor contradictions, all to make this video easier to consume. This is the Zelda timeline, it's already confusing enough. This is not a full explanation of the games and what happens in them. If you want that, go watch a walkthrough or add these together. Also, this is not including any info from the Tears of the Kingdom leak, mostly because I haven't seen them and have no idea what happens. The Era of Creation. According to ancient legend, the world was created by three golden goddesses. Din, the goddess of power, created the land. Nehru, the goddess of wisdom, created order. Feor, the goddess of courage, created life. After creating the world, they left for the heavens. However, before they left, they used their powers to create the Triforce and place it inside the sacred realm. They entrusted its protection to their fellow goddess, Hylia. The Triforce is an ancient relic that possesses the ultimate source of power. It grants the wielder any wish they want. However, it can only be used by mortals, and they must possess all virtues of the goddesses. If one does not have all virtues balanced, it will split into three pieces. Only when all pieces are reunited can the true power of the Triforce be obtained. The goddess Reborn and her chosen hero. In the beginning, long before Hyrule itself, the Demon King, Demise, seeks the power of the Triforce and fights the goddess Hylia for it. While she seals Demise away, she knows it's only temporary. To prepare for his return, she sacrifices her divinity to be reincarnated as a mortal, so she can use the power of the Triforce. Her reincarnate, Zelda, was kidnapped because of her connection to the goddess, so her chosen hero, Link, embarks on a quest to rescue her. His quest required the formation of the Triforce and the creation of a weapon that can be the Blade of Evil's bane. So with the help of sacred power, Link creates the Master Sword. In the end, Link and Zelda manage to stop the Demon King Demise. However, Demise managed to lay a curse upon Link and Zelda before he was sealed inside the Master Sword.
Those who share the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero, they are eternally bound to this curse. An incarnation of my hatred shall ever follow your kind, dooming them to wander a blood-soaked sea of darkness for all time.
After Demise's defeat, Zelda and Link decided to rebuild Hylia's old kingdom. When they decided to return the Triforce to the Sacred Realm, they also constructed the Temple of Time to protect the Master Sword, along with the Door of Time to seal it off. Because the Master Sword is not only the key to entering the Sacred Realm, it's the only entrance. Since then, Demise's hatred has followed the reincarnations of the Princess of Legend and the legendary hero as the incarnation Vati in the Minish Cap and Four Swords. But, like Demise, he was eventually sealed away inside the Four Sword, paving the way for the most famous incarnate of Demise to appear, the Demon King, Ganondorf. The manipulation of time. The stability of Hyrule became endangered when a civil war broke out. The war was eventually resolved with the King of Hyrule reuniting the nation once again. But it wasn't before a Hyrulean woman left her baby in the Kokiri Forest to be raised by the great Deku Tree. The King of the Gerudo, Ganondorf, swore loyalty to the king, but he was secretly planning to usurp the king and take the Triforce for himself. The boy was this era's Link, and he was having visions of Ganondorf's treachery. He was instructed by the great Deku Tree to stop Ganondorf with the help of a fairy called Navi. Link met with the king's daughter, Zelda, and they learned that they were both having premonitions of Ganondorf. They agreed to get to the Temple of Time and open the Door of Time using a sacred relic called the Ocarina of Time before Ganondorf could. However, he anticipated this. When Link pulled the Master Sword out of its pedestal, it sealed the boy into the Sacred Realm, leaving Ganondorf free to take the Triforce and corrupt the Sacred Realm into a dark world, an evil realm that reflects his soul. However, the Triforce rejected the Gerudo King, and only left him with the Triforce of Power, with the Triforce of Wisdom and Courage going to Princess Zelda and Link respectively. After 7 years, Link awoke, reborn as the hero of time. He was tasked with finding the 7 sages who can seal away Ganondorf, which included Princess Zelda. When Link and the 7 sages faced against Ganondorf, they discovered that he had transformed into a dark beast, simply named Ganon. After a ferocious fight with the Demon King, the hero of time and the 7 sages sealed Ganon into the evil realm. Because of the disarray Ganon left Hyrule in, Zelda decided to use the Ocarina of Time to send Link back in time to live the childhood that was stolen from him. Link, now 7 years younger, returns the Master Sword and informs the princess of the Gerudo King's treachery, but not before the fairy, Navi, disappears after completing her quest. The branches in time. When Princess Zelda sent Link to before Ganondorf's rise to power, she did not fully realize the consequences of her actions. Sending the hero of time away to change the course of history for the better managed to have the complete opposite reaction. The timeline had become broken and fractured into 3 different branches. They all seem to occupy the same space at the exact same time, but while they are similar, how they came to be couldn't be more drastically different. The Child Timeline. The first timeline we'll explore is known as the Child Timeline. It was birthed by the adventures of Link after he was sent back in time. After Link warned Zelda of Ganondorf's future deposition, he embarked on a quest to find his companion Navi. His search led him to the world of Termina, and the mysterious moon that is falling because of the demon Majora. While Link is continuing his adventure, Ganondorf is being sentenced to death for the events of Ocarina of Time. However, Ganondorf survived his execution by being blessed with the Triforce of Power. So, the sages use the Mirror of Twilight to send Ganondorf to the Twilight Realm where it can hold him. This, of course, doesn't last, as Ganondorf manipulates the royal family in the Twilight Realm to usurp both the Twilight Princess Midna and Princess Zelda by invading Hyrule and covering it in twilight. Link, Midna, and Zelda team up and attack Ganondorf to save Hyrule. It ends with Link killing Ganondorf and Midna shattering the Mirror of Twilight, breaking the gateway between their worlds. Hundreds of years later, a new Ganondorf is born. He plans on freeing the Wind Mage, Vati, from his imprisonment in the Four Sword from long ago. However, this Link uses the power of the Four Sword to defeat Vati once and for all, and seal Ganon into the Four Sword, bringing peace to Hyrule once again. The Adult Timeline. The second timeline that we'll be exploring is the Adult Timeline. This follows the events that happen after Link goes back in time, a world that is now without the Hero of Time. The seal holding Ganon inside the evil realm broke, allowing him to come back to Hyrule. Because Link had disappeared to live as a child, there was no hero to stop Ganon. So, the people of Hyrule prayed to the goddesses, and they responded by flooding the land and trapping Ganon within it. Hundreds of years later, Link's sister, Aryll, was kidnapped by Ganondorf, so he embarks on a quest to rescue her. Link, with the full power of the Master Sword and a fully reformed Triforce, goes to defeat Ganondorf with the help of Tetra, who is secretly Princess Zelda. Together they beat Ganondorf and wash away Hyrule forever. Once they return to the surface, they decide to find a new continent to rebuild Hyrule on. While searching for a new continent, Zelda gets kidnapped by the ghost ship and drained of her life force by an evil phantom named Bellum. Link leaves to go find the ghost ship, rescue Zelda, and construct a weapon that can harm Bellum. With the phantom sword in hand, Link defeats Bellum and saves Zelda. Eventually, Link and Zelda find a new continent that can hold the new kingdom of Hyrule along with spirit tracks that span the nation. 100 years later, the spirit tracks began to disappear, so this era's Link and Zelda go off to investigate it. They are stopped by the Chancellor of Hyrule, Cole, who separates Zelda's spirit from her body to revive the Demon King Malladus. Link and Spirit Zelda are too late to stop Malladus' resurrection, so they decide to defeat him together. When they do, Zelda regains control of her body and peace is restored to Hyrule once again. The Fallen Hero Timeline. The last timeline we'll be exploring is the Fallen Hero Timeline. In this timeline, Link was slain by Ganon in battle, giving him free access to the other 2 pieces of the Triforce. With the completed Triforce in his possession, Ganon became unstoppable. So as a last resort, the 7 sages sealed Ganon inside the Dark World. Many years later, the kingdom began to experience a series of misfortunes. A dark wizard named Aghanim had saved Hyrule from it, and became the chief advisor. He used his position to overthrow the king, brainwash the soldiers, and send the descendants of the 7 sages to the Dark World. Doing this broke the seal on Ganon in the Dark World. This era's Link came to action and saved the descendants of the 7 sages, including Princess Zelda. He defeated Aghanim, but not before Ganon rose out of his body. Link and Ganon had a vicious final fight, which ended with Link victorious and restoring peace to Hyrule. Link continued to explore the world, and on one of his expeditions he ran into a storm. It destroyed his boat and washed him up on the coast of an island called Koholint. He learned in order to get off the island he had to collect the instruments that can wake up the windfish. Once Link collected all the instruments and fought the windfish's nightmare, he was able to wake up the windfish. Turns out Koholint was just a dream of the windfish, and upon waking it up, the island had disappeared and placed Link adrift in sea. Eventually Link makes his way back to Hyrule, but it turns out Ganon's mothers, Kotaki and Kome, or more commonly known as Twin Rova, are planning his revival. They kidnap a dancer named Din, a singer named Nehru, and Princess Zelda. Link rescues the girls and challenges Twin Rova in battle. Before he can defeat them, Twin Rova sacrifices their own bodies to revive Ganon. This Link battles Ganon for the final time and wins, bringing peace back to the world. Hundreds of years later, the peace was threatened when a sorcerer called Yuga invaded the kingdom. He hails from a kingdom called Lorule, and comes to trap the descendants of the 7 sages in paintings. This Link follows Yuga into Lorule, but it is too late to stop him from freeing Ganon, merging with him, and taking both the Triforce of Power and Wisdom from Ganon and Zelda respectively. Link, armed with only the Triforce of Courage, faces Yuga with Zelda and finally defeats him. Together, Link and Zelda use the complete Triforce to bring a brighter age to Hyrule and Lorule. After the fight with Yuga, Link leaves to go to a neighboring kingdom called Hytopia. He's recruited by a brigade to defeat the evil witch Lady Maud, who has cursed Princess Styla. Link, along with the other heroes, stop Lady Maud and save Princess Styla. Centuries passed, and the current king of Hyrule began distrusting his son's worthiness. So, to prevent the prince from using the Triforce, the king hides the Triforce of Courage in the Great Palace and only tells his daughter, Princess Zelda, of the location. When the king passed and the prince ascended to the throne, he realized he only had 2 pieces of the Triforce. He questioned his sister about the location of the Triforce of Courage, but she refused to tell him. So the prince put the princess under a spell that put her in an eternal slumber. He instantly regretted his actions, and being unable to wake his sister, he decreed that all women in the royal family must be named Zelda. Years later, Ganon uses the opportunity to invade Hyrule and take the Triforce of Power and Wisdom. A descendant of the Sleeping Beauty, Zelda, was able to split the Triforce of Wisdom into 8 pieces before being captured. She instructs her handmaid, Impa, to find Link to collect the pieces of the Triforce of Wisdom. Link completes his quest and uses it to face off against Ganon. In the end, he was triumphant and saved Zelda. 6 years after Ganon's defeat, Link gets the mark of the Triforce of Courage on his hand. Impa sees this mark and tells Link the story of Sleeping Beauty Zelda. He's told that if he finds the Triforce of Courage, he can break the spell on the princess. So he embarks on the quest to open the Great Palace and get the Triforce of Courage. Once Link completes his quest, he goes to Sleeping Beauty Zelda and reunites the pieces of the Triforce to wake her up. The Princess of Destiny and Hero of the Wild. After tens of thousands of years, all the adventures of the hero and the Princess of Hyrule have become nothing more than a myth. Stories from the distant past that hold as much truth as fairy tales. During this time, Ganon has mutated to a being of pure malice called Calamity Ganon. 117 years before the events of Breath of the Wild, a prophecy was found and foretold the return of Calamity Ganon. The Kingdom of Hyrule began preparing for his return by recruiting 4 champions to pilot the weapons created to stop Calamity Ganon, called Divine Beasts, excavating ancient weapons called Guardians, and finding this generation's hero of Hyrule. However, the fate of Hyrule rested on top the shoulders of the princess who could seal away the calamity. When the inevitable return of Calamity Ganon came, the kingdom was unprepared and easily defeated. The champions were ambushed and defeated inside their divine beasts. The princess hadn't unlocked her sealing powers yet, and with the divine beast now turned against them, Zelda was on the run with Link. However, while Link was protecting Zelda, he was fatally wounded. With her knight on the verge of death, the princess unlocks her sealing powers, saving herself and Link. To save her knight, Zelda places Link in the Shrine of Resurrection, where he'll rest for 100 years. She places the Master Sword inside the Korok Forest and leaves to hold Calamity Ganon until Link recovers. 100 years later, Link had finally awoken, but with no recollection of his memories. Link, guided by the spirit of the king and Zelda, ventures through Hyrule to take back the Divine Beast, get back the Master Sword, and remember his past. When Link finishes his quest, he challenges Calamity Ganon with the power of the Divine Beast, Master Sword, and Zelda's sealing powers. Together they defeat the Calamity and allow Hyrule to flourish once again. After some time has passed since the Day of Reckoning, Princess Zelda and Link have decided to rebuild the kingdom and restore Hyrule back to its former glory. Until one day, they come across a great evil that needs to be stopped. But that is a story for another day. The Warriors timeline. Originally, I wasn't going to include this, but I figured it'd be a little confusing if I just outright ignored these games, so I'll quickly speedrun the whole Warriors situation. In another timeline, separate from the main adventures we know, lies a sorceress named Sia. She is tasked with maintaining the balance of the Triforce. Because of her position, she uses her magic to look across all of time, but never interfere. During this time, the sorceress had become enamored with the goddess's chosen hero. She also grows jealous of the Princess of Light when she learns that their souls are bound together. The Ganondorf of this timeline was defeated long ago, and his soul was split and scattered across time. When he learns of the sorceress, he hatched a plan to be resurrected once again. Ganondorf decided to exploit the sorceress's feelings and use it as a gateway to purge all her inner light. The sorceress, now consumed with desire, opens a gateway into time itself to gather an army that could wage war with Hyrule. While Link, Zelda, and Impa successfully defended against the invasion, they couldn't stop Sia from taking the Triforce and opening portals to where Ganondorf's spirit resides. Our heroes embark on a quest to defeat Sia's army, close the portals, and prevent the resurrection of Ganondorf. While they were successful in defeating Sia, they were unable to prevent Ganondorf from returning. Ganon takes all the pieces of the Triforce and summons an army across time and space. However, all the heroes across Hyrule's history join forces and stop Ganon's army. Link, with the help of Zelda, vanquishes Ganon and seals him away with the Triforce. On the day of the Great Calamity, unknown to the Princess Hero and champions, there was a small guardian that opened up a portal in time and traveled back before the decimation of Hyrule, armed with the knowledge of the future. The Link, Zelda, and Impa of the past investigate the strange traveler and learn of their fate. If the princess is incapable of unlocking her power earlier, ruin will befall the kingdom. So they begin preparations for the future by recruiting the champions who will pilot the divine beast and finding the wielder of the Master Sword. Then, the day of destiny arrives. While the kingdom was more prepared, the princess had not unlocked her powers and the champions were losing. When the small guardian opened another time portal, bringing the champions of the future to rescue the champions of old. However, Link was still in grave danger, but it gives Zelda the opportunity to finally unlock her sealing magic. Together, with the powers of the small guardian, princess, hero, and champions of both past and future, they storm Hyrule Castle and finally put an end to Calamity Ganon. With the fight over and peace restored, the champions of the future go back to their time, and the heroes of the present live their lives with the course of history, now changed forever. Okay, so this was a different video than normal, but I do have some things to quickly explain. I know I favored some games more than others, like Ocarina of Time, but that's just because it is that significant to the timeline. Games like Minish Cap and Four Sword had plots so thin that when I kept revising them, it got so short I just merged it into one sentence. This isn't to say that the other games aren't as good just because they don't hold as much lore significance. I love Link Between Worlds and Majora's Mask to death, and it broke my heart that I really had to overlook a lot of what happened. But the point of the video was to give all the important information as quickly as possible. So if you haven't played all the games, I hope this inspires you to go try them out because they're all great games. And if you have, tell me what's your favorite Zelda game, or if I got anything wrong or missed anything. Probably should have said this in the beginning, but I am not an expert. I just really like Zelda. But anyways guys, thanks for watching and remember to lock your doors.